In the heart of a gleaming city tower, where entire floors buzzed with machines and engineers hunched over computer screens, tension was at its peak. The CEO, Adrian Cole, stood tall at the window of his office, staring out at the skyline he had built piece by piece. He wasn't just a businessman. He was a single father, a man who carried two identities every day, one as the head of a billion-dollar company, the other as the devoted father to his young son. Ethan Adrian's company was on the brink of collapse. For months, his engineers, 15 of the brightest minds in the industry, had been trying to fix a crippling glitch in the company's new flagship invention. This device, meant to revolutionize energy consumption, kept failing. Investors were growing impatient. The board threatened to withdraw, and the media was circling like vultures. The weight of it all pressed heavily on Adrian's shoulders. Yet, through it all, he kept going, not just because of pride, but because of Ethan. He wanted to give his son a future where he wouldn't have to struggle the way Adrian had after losing his wife. Every decision, every sleepless night was for Ethan. On the 15th attempt, the engineers once again gathered in the testing room. Wires, monitors, and sparks filled the air. One by one, they recalibrated, rewired, and reprogrammed, only for the system to fail again. A loud buzz, followed by a shutdown, filled the room. Groans erupted among the team. "It's impossible," one of the lead engineers muttered. "We've tried every formula, every code. There's no way to stabilize it." Adrian pinched the bridge of his nose. His jaw tightened, though he kept his voice calm. "There has to be a way." "Keep working." The team exchanged weary glances. They respected their CEO, admired his dedication, but they had reached their breaking point. 15 failures in a row and millions of dollars lost. That evening, Adrian returned home exhausted. His penthouse apartment was quiet, filled only with the sound of Ethan's laughter in the playroom. Ethan's nanny, Maria, a warm-hearted woman with quick wit and sharp instincts, greeted him with a smile. She had been with them since Ethan was a baby, and in many ways, she had become family. "You look like you've been carrying the weight of the world again," she said, handing him a cup of tea. Adrian sighed heavily. "The world, the company, everything. 15 engineers, Maria. 15, and not one of them can solve this. If we fail again, we'll lose everything." Maria tilted her head thoughtfully. "What's the problem?" Adrian shook his head, almost amused. "It's complicated, too technical to explain. Believe me, if the brightest engineers can't figure it out, it's not something anyone else could just fix." But Maria didn't press. Instead, she sat quietly, watching Ethan build a toy tower with his blocks. "Sometimes," she said softly, "you don't need the brightest minds. You just need fresh eyes." The next morning, Adrian reluctantly brought Ethan and Maria with him to the office. It wasn't planned. His schedule had collided with Ethan's school break, and Maria insisted it would be good for the boy to spend time with his father. The engineers were gathered again, working on the device when Ethan tugged at Adrian's sleeve. "Daddy, can I see what you're making?" Adrian hesitated. "It's very complicated, buddy." But Maria, with her usual gentle persistence, said, "Let him watch. Maybe it'll inspire him." So Adrian lifted his son onto a stool, and Maria stood beside them, curious. The engineers gave them skeptical looks, but continued their work. For the next hour, the team repeated tests, re-entered codes, and adjusted wires. Each time, the machine fizzled and shut down. Frustration built like a storm. Adrian rubbed his temples, ready to call it a day. When Maria leaned closer to the device, her eyes narrowed. She wasn't an engineer. She had no technical training. Yet she had always been observant, practical, and good with puzzles, traits that had helped her countless times raising Ethan. "Wait," she said suddenly. "Why are you looping this connector back into the same circuit? You're overloading it every time. Shouldn't it be diverted here?" She pointed to a secondary slot on the motherboard, a piece everyone had dismissed as irrelevant. The room went silent. One of the engineers scoffed. "That's not how it's designed to." He stopped mid-sentence, realizing what she was saying. Adrian frowned. "What do you mean, Maria?" She shrugged. "I'm no expert, but I've fixed enough broken toys to know when power keeps cycling the same way. It overheats and shuts down. If you let it out here instead, it won't burn itself out." The engineers exchanged stunned looks. One hesitated, then reconnected the wiring exactly as Maria suggested. The device hummed to life. Seconds passed. Then a minute. For the first time, it didn't fail. The monitor showed stable energy flow. Numbers climbed steadily, perfectly balanced. The room erupted in gasps and cheers. Adrian's eyes widened. His heart pounded as he realized what had just happened. 15 engineers, countless months, millions of dollars, and his son's nanny had solved it in less than 30 seconds. Ethan clapped happily, oblivious to the magnitude of the moment. "Yay, Daddy, it's working!" Adrian turned to Maria, his voice low and reverent. You just saved the company." Maria smiled modestly. "I just saw what was in front of me. Sometimes it's that simple." Word spread quickly. The board of directors demanded an explanation. The investors celebrated, and the press hailed the breakthrough as genius. But only Adrian, his engineers, and Maria knew the truth, that the solution came not from laboratories or formulas, but from the sharp eyes of a woman most would overlook. In the days that followed, Adrian's admiration for Maria deepened. She wasn't just a caregiver. She was intuitive, brilliant in ways that went beyond degrees and titles. He found himself relying on her not just for Ethan, but for perspective, for clarity when his world became too clouded with stress. One evening, as they watched Ethan fall asleep, Adrian spoke quietly. "You know, I built an empire with the smartest people I could find. But in the end, the person who saved it all was you. I don't think I've ever thanked you properly." Maria looked at him, her eyes warm. "You don't need to thank me. I'm here for Ethan, and I'm here for you too. That's what family does." Something shifted in Adrian's heart that night. For years he had carried his burdens alone, building walls to protect himself and his son. But Maria had broken through those walls, not with force but with kindness, patience, and quiet strength. In time, their bond grew into something more. Investors still praised the engineers. The media still celebrated the technology. But inside Adrian's home, the true story lived on. The nanny who solved in 30 seconds what experts couldn't in months. And every time Adrian looked at her, he knew what he had almost lost. The miracle standing right beside him.